The breakfast sun streamed into the Montecito kitchen, painting the scene in a warm, almost idyllic glow. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, watched as Archie meticulously arranged his blueberries into a perfect circle on his plate, a task requiring the utmost concentration for a 4-year-old. Lilibet, barely 2, gurgled happily from her high chair, banging a spoon against the plastic tray, a tiny blonde whirlwind of pure, unadulterated joy. It was a tableau of domestic bliss, a carefully constructed haven far removed from the centuries-old pressures and protocols of the British monarchy. But the tranquility was about to shatter. Harry's phone, lying innocently on the countertop, buzzed with a new He glanced at the screen, a flicker of recognition, then a slow, creeping dread washed over his face. It was from the palace. He knew instantly that whatever it contained, it wouldn't be good. Years of navigating the intricate, often treacherous currents of royal life had honed his instincts, sharpened his senses to detect the subtle shifts in palace dynamics. This was different. This felt final. He excused himself, muttering something about needing to check on a forgotten appointment, and retreated to his study, the sanctuary where he wrestled with the ghosts of his past and the anxieties of his present. Meghan watched him go, a knot forming in her stomach. She knew that look. It was the look of a man bracing himself for impact. The look of a prince caught between duty and desire, between his family and his freedom. Inside the study, Harry opened the email, the words swimming before his eyes. King Charles, in his relentless pursuit of a modernized, streamlined monarchy, had signed a new decree rewriting the rules of royal succession. The core tenet was simple, brutally so. Any child wishing to remain in the line of succession must be raised full-time in the United Kingdom under direct royal supervision. No exceptions, no compromises. The implications were immediately devastatingly clear. Archie and Lilibet, born and raised in California, living lives wholly separate from royal traditions, would effectively be erased from the line of succession. Their American accents, their private schools in Montecito, their familiarity with Disneyland rather than Buckingham Palace, all rendered them ineligible, outsiders looking in on a world that was once their birthright. Harry read the message again, each word a hammer blow against his already fragile sense of belonging. He knew this was coming, had sensed the tightening of the royal grip, the growing distance between his world and his brother's. But to see it codified, to have his children's future so coldly, clinically redefined, was a pain he hadn't anticipated. He walked back to the kitchen, his face pale, his shoulders slumped. Meghan, ever perceptive, saw the truth etched in his features. Whatever news he carried, it was shattering. He took her hand, led her to the study, leaving Archie and Lilibet blissfully unaware in the care of their nanny. As the door closed behind them, sealing them off from the sunshine and the laughter, Meghan braced herself for the storm that was about to break. Charles has signed new succession rules, Harry said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. Any child in the line of succession must be raised full-time in the UK under royal supervision. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. Meghan stared at him, her mind racing, trying to process the enormity of what he had just said. This wasn't about titles or privilege or some abstract notion of royal duty. This was about belonging, about identity, about the future of her children. When does it take effect? She finally asked, her voice barely a whisper. Immediately, Harry replied. It's already official. Archie and Lilibet, they don't qualify. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. The carefully constructed life they had built in California, the sanctuary they had created for their children, suddenly felt fragile, threatened. The past, which they had fought so hard to escape, had come back to haunt them, its icy grip tightening around their future. They're erasing our children, Meghan finally said, her voice low, dangerous. Harry flinched. It's not specifically about them, Meg. It's a general rule. Don't, she snapped, turning away, pacing the length of the study like a caged animal. Don't insult my intelligence, Harry. Don't defend them. You know exactly who this targets. We leave because the institution is toxic. We build a life here to protect our family. We do exactly what we said we would, raise our children with privacy and normalcy. And now they punish us for it. He knew she was right. The carefully worded legalese couldn't mask the truth. Archie and Lilibet were the only children of senior royals living outside the UK. The rule might be presented as a matter of principle, but its execution was undeniably personal. Meghan snatched her phone from the desk, her fingers flying across the screen. "I'm calling the lawyers. Now. If they think they can just rewrite the rules to exclude our children without consequences, they're about to learn exactly how wrong they are." 2 days later, the second blow landed. This one, delivered with the same cold efficiency as the first, was even more devastating. Only the children of active working royals shall maintain their positions in the line of succession. Children of former working royals or non-working royals shall be removed from succession lists upon implementation of this decree. The words were clinical, bureaucratic, but the message was unmistakable. Harry and Meghan had chosen freedom over obligation, privacy over service, and now their children were paying the price. Archie and Lilibet were out. This time, Meghan didn't explode. She didn't shout. She simply went silent, retreating into her office, staring at the official palace letterhead, reading and rereading the words that felt designed to inflict maximum pain. Harry found her hours later, sitting in the dark, the only light emanating from her computer screen. "This is William," she said, her voice flat, devoid of inflection. "Charles might have signed it, but William pushed for it. This is him cutting us off completely." He didn't argue. He had been thinking the same thing. His brother, the future king, saw them as a threat, a liability to be managed, not family to be accommodated. William was playing the long game, safeguarding the monarchy for future generations, and in that vision there was no room for the California Sussexes. "We fought for those titles," Meghan continued, her voice hollow. "When Archie was born and they tried to deny him a title. When Lilibet was born and they played games with her name. We fought because we believed our children deserved to be recognized. And now they're taking it all away anyway." Her eyes, red-rimmed but dry, finally met his. They waited. They let us believe there was still a connection, still a place for us, and then they rewrote everything to make sure there wasn't. But the palace wasn't finished. 3 days later, a third development emerged, a formal clarity review. The review, according to the official notice, was standard procedure following significant changes to succession protocols. A team would examine all relevant documentation to ensure consistency, accuracy, and compliance with the new requirement. Birth certificates, medical records, residency history, parental status confirmations, everything would be verified, cross-referenced, and certified. It sounded routine, administrative, the kind of thing that happens in large institutions when rules change. But Meghan knew better. "They're looking for something," she told Harry, her voice tight with suspicion. "They're not just updating records. They're digging. Looking for what? Everything is documented. The births were registered properly. The paperwork is all correct." "That's not the point, Harry. The point is they're creating doubt. They're sending a message that maybe there's something questionable about our children's status. Maybe there's something that doesn't add up. They're planting seeds." And she was right. The team assembled for this clarity review wasn't your average group of pencil pushers. We're talking constitutional experts, legal historians who practically breathed succession law, and senior advisors who'd been navigating royal protocols since before Harry was even born. This was the kind of team you call in when you expect to unearth something scandalous, or more likely, when you want to guarantee that no future challenges can possibly stick. The scope was breathtaking. Every detail of Archie and Lilibet's births was under a microscope. Their legal status, not just in the UK, but in the US, was being dissected. Their parents' marital status at the time of their births was reconfirmed, as if anyone seriously doubted it. And, of course, their current residency and its implications for their succession eligibility were being scrutinized to within an inch of their lives. The palace line was that it was all just due diligence. But come on, this was harassment, plain and simple. It was the institution flexing its muscles, trying to find any excuse, any loophole to justify excluding her children beyond the already dubious rule changes. Meanwhile, William was emerging from the shadows. For years, he'd played the dutiful son, the heir apparent, patiently waiting his turn. But with Charles on the throne, something had shifted. William wasn't just the future anymore. He was the protector of that future, and he was prepared to make the kind of ruthless decisions his father might have hesitated over. Those close to him painted a picture of a man laser-focused on the monarchy's long-term survival, a man who'd witnessed firsthand the damage caused by scandal, divorce, and family infighting. He saw what his parents' messy split did to the public's perception of the crown. He lived through the aftermath of Diana's death, and the questions it raised about the royal family's humanity. He watched his grandmother navigate the Andrew debacle, the Sussexes' exit, and countless other crises that threatened to bring the whole house down. And William had decided that when he took the reins, things would be different. The monarchy would be leaner, stronger, and utterly devoted to service. There would be no room for freeloaders, for those who wanted the perks without the work, for family members who trashed the institution while still clinging to their titles. In William's eyes, Harry and Meghan were the embodiment of this problem. They left, but they didn't fully leave. They gave those bombshell interviews, attacking the family while still cashing in on their royal connection. It was having it both ways, and William was determined to put an end to it. Sources whispered that William was the driving force behind the succession rule changes. He argued that the monarchy needed clarity, that Archie and Lilibet, growing up as American kids with no real ties to royal life, shouldn't be allowed to occupy spots that might be needed by working royals down the line. He believed it was time to stop pretending that everyone could be included, especially those who had actively chosen to exclude themselves. Charles, bless his heart, was reportedly hesitant, not because he disagreed with the principle, but because he worried about the optics, about the inevitable cries of cruelty towards his own grandchildren. But William was unyielding, and these days William's voice carried as much weight, if not more, than his father's when it came to the monarchy's future. The king might think in years, but William, apparently, thought in generations. And when you're playing that kind of long game, sentimentality becomes a luxury you can't afford. The message was clear. The monarchy was moving on, with or without Harry and Meghan. If they weren't contributing, they simply didn't belong. As the new rules settled in and the Clarity Review dug deeper, Meghan began to plot her next move. And predictably, it wasn't going to be a quiet one. Sources said she'd assembled a legal dream team in both California and the UK, ready to explore every possible angle to challenge what she saw as a blatant assault on her children. Her main target was the 1701 Act of Settlement, the centuries-old law that laid the foundation for the current rules of succession. Meghan's argument, as relayed by those in her inner circle, was that Charles's new requirements violated the very spirit, if not the precise wording, of that historic act. The Act of Settlement was designed to ensure a Protestant succession and to clarify who could and couldn't inherit the throne, but it said nothing about residency requirements or parental work status.